When we dissect the record of Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, at first you might think Canelo's had so many more fights. He's a big pay-per-view star. He has the better resume. But what if I told you one win that Terence Crawford has stands above all of Canelo's best wins? Listen up. When you look at a clean win, we're going to call a clean win boxing someone in their prime. No controversy around the decision. And were they a killer at the weights? So let's look at Canelo Alvarez's record. We're going to say Canelo Alvarez has beat Golovkin on paper. He's beat Kovalev. He's beat Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Callum Smith. Now, first, I'm going to get to Kovalev and Golovkin. First, let's start with Callum Smith. Callum Smith fought around the COVID time period and he had short notice to prepare for the fight. So although Callum seemed to be like on the rise and he's going to be a good boxer, a hard bout, Callum Smith wasn't on that worldly level where he was dominating and beating fighters for the first one. He was an up-and-coming star who never had enough time to prepare for the bouts. Then we look at Danny Jacobs, which is probably his solid win, his most solid win. I think he beating Peter Quillen. He's a good guy. So Danny Jacobs, again, he was top level. He's there, but he wasn't a killer. I would say he was still in his prime, was still in a good condition, but again, he wasn't a killer. He was just a top level boxer. Billy Joe Saunders, who wasn't heavily dominating the division, but if you're looking at it from a stylistic and you're looking at the skills, Billy Joe Saunders was a very good win because Billy Joe Saunders, in my opinion, was even better than Canelo Alvarez, skill-wise. But when you look at the direction of his career, was he boxing actively and doing what he visually looked like he could do? Because with Billy Joe Saunders, you watch him box and you can see how much potential he has. Even at world level, it was still potential because most times boxers cap it there. But he had so much more that when you watched it, it looked like he could achieve. But in reality, he hadn't achieved it yet. So when Canelo beating him, isn't actually beating what Billy Joe Saunders could be because he never achieved it. So although that's a solid win, that is a very good win. It's still not against somebody who is dominating the division. It's someone who's won a title and had a couple of decent victories at world level. Caleb Plant. Now again, Caleb Plant hasn't actually beaten a single. He's beaten Andre Durrell, but that was after the fight. Before the Alvarez fight, he hadn't beaten a single elite level boxer. So again, he's more reputation. He's more, when you watch him box, he looks really good. He looks cute. He looks like he's got great skills, but he's never proven it. Before he fought Saul Alvarez, he had never proven it. So again, he's not, you can't put him in there and say he's a clean victory against a top dude because simply put, he wasn't. Canelo's victory over Miguel Cotto was anything other than clean. It wasn't a decisive victory. Firstly, Cotto was past it. Cotto was at the end of his career. But secondly, Cotto seemed to be a bit quicker, a bit sharper, a bit more reactive than Canelo during this bout, even though Canelo landed some great counter punches himself. So in this fight, it wasn't a clean decision. It wasn't clear that Canelo won the fight because many thought he lost. Plus, Miguel Cotto wasn't in his prime. Now let's go to Kovalev and Golovkin. Both fighters, in my opinion, were past it. Kovalev was definitely past it. Decent fight, and then he gets stopped. He gets knocked out in the end. Now, call it what you want. Saul Alvarez won. Some people were saying that it was a bit iffy. There's a bit of controversy around that fight, whether Kovalev actually came to win or not. But that's neither here nor there. What is clear is that Kovalev was past it by the time he fought Canelo Alvarez and was taken out. Golovkin. Now, Golovkin is hands down on paper his best victory. But in that first fight, we all know that Canelo lost. Canelo lost the first fight. Second fight, you could call it a draw. By the time the third fight came around, he's just way past it. Remember, he was past it even in the first fight where he beat Alvarez. So, I've just shown you. Look at Alvarez's record. Don't look at the fact that he fought Floyd Mayweather because he lost. Don't look at the fact that he fought Dimitri Bivol because he lost. Don't look at the fact that he's been the biggest drawer in boxing because that is largely down to the fact that he's the best Mexican fighter alive at the time. Well, Benavidez is coming up. Why hasn't he fought Benavidez? Because we know why. Because Benavidez will beat him. Alvarez, he's used the situation of the era he's in to his advantage, which every boxer who's good, who's smart outside of the ring is going to do. He's beaten a lot of good and okay level fighters and built up a really strong name in a time period where there hasn't been in his weight division fighters that could beat him, other than Golovkin, who then he waited to fought Golovkin at the end of his career. So what I'm trying to explain to you is that although Alvarez is a really good fighter, he hasn't actually boxed the greats who's in their prime, who's beaten top level competition, had enough time and beaten them, haven't had enough time to prepare and won the fight. This has never happened. Now, when you compare him to Terence Crawford now, who has beaten decent level guys, he's beaten world champions, but when I even look at the world champions that he has beaten, like Amir Khan, because that was past it, wasn't the real Amir Khan, even though I think the result would always be the same. We're not going to look at Sean Porter either, who was a good, solid world champion, who was beating other world champions, just like Amir Khan. We're going to look at just Errol Spence. Now, Errol Spence had that life-threatening car crash. You can't deny it. He must have lost something in that car crash. But when he did box Terence Crawford, in my opinion, it wasn't clear that he lost anything. But it was just clear that stylistically, Spence couldn't keep up with someone who controls the distance so well. And he wasn't beaten by the stronger man, he was beaten by the man with better timing. But when we look at Errol Spence, stronger than Crawford, somebody who weighed more than Crawford, somebody who was heavily dominating the division. Heavily. He wasn't just a one-time champion, he wasn't just a title holder, he was dominating the division, beating everyone. That's why that fight was such a big fight when he stepped up in weight and he boxed him and defeated him. It's kind of similar to when Canelo stepped up and fought Bivol. Although Canelo lost. That's literally the same type of situation we had with Spence and Crawford. Which is why, in my heart, that victory that Crawford has over Spence trumps anything that Canelo's done in his whole career. Despite the car crash, it still does, I'm sorry. Look at the victories that Spence has had in his career. And then you can clearly see he's a serious boxer. Has Billy Joe Saunders, he beat David Lemieux, he's beat some good level boxers, he beat John Ryder, although that was earlier in his career. Callum Smith beaten a few decent level boxers like John Ryder again. They've all boxed and beaten decent level boxers. But his opponents haven't boxed and dominated the division and then Canelo's beaten them. Every boxer that's dominated the division and then boxes Alvarez beats him. And this is why when you look at their resumes and say who's got the better resume, it really is Terence Crawford, not Canelo Alvarez, despite the amount of fights that Canelo has had. So what's very important for us to understand is that the win has to be clean. No controversy. Somebody wasn't old. Somebody was well prepared. Somebody's proven that they're a killer by fighting and boxing and beating killers before the bouts. And under that criteria, Bud has the better resume. Let me know what you think in the comments beneath. But I get upset when I read these comments and people are just saying I'm hating on Canelo and I'm a Terence Crawford lover and I'm silly. You have to understand that I love Canelo. I watch Canelo more than I watch Crawford. In fact, analyzing this bout is what made me really watch Crawford and really watch and understand that Crawford is definitely going to beat Canelo Alvarez. Despite the weight gain, despite everything, he's going to beat him. And he's going to beat him on style. The styles make fights. So again, I love Canelo, but stylistically, I can't see him winning. When you look at both of their records and you compare it, the win that Terence Crawford has, in my head, puts him higher than Canelo Alvarez. Let me know if you agree with this in the comments, but don't just comment some rubbish. Break it down. Let me know. Why do you think I am right? Why do you think Errol Spence's victory is better? Or if you think Errol Spence's victory isn't better, explain to me what fight Canelo has had that is better. Because it wasn't Golovkin, that's controversial. It wasn't Billy Joe Saunders. It wasn't Danny Jacobs. So let me know in the comments.